Everyone, we should start like in a few seconds. So if everyone can get seated, please. Whoa. Now I have my signal. So good morning, everyone, in a sunny day. That's surprising. Welcome to this high-level session, a European Citizens Initiative that meets the moment. Before we begin, it is my pleasure to introduce the chair of the European Economic and Social Committee Group on the European Citizen Initiative, Mari Carmen Barrera Chamorro, who will deliver the introductory remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, Mr. Boland, Vice President of the European Parliament, Mr. Omarjee, European Ombudswoman, Mrs. Sanjinho, Vice President of the European Committee of the Regions, Mrs. Kozlan, Executive Director of the European Citizen Action Service, Mrs. Kabrakova. Good morning. For everyone, members of the committee, and of course, ECI organizers, ECI stakeholders and supporters, friends and partners from civil society. Welcome to the European Citizens Initiative Day 2026. It is a real pleasure to see so many of you here today, those joining us in person and those online. Your presence shows that the European Citizens Initiative remains relevant and dynamic and is firmly supported by civil society across Europe. Honored guests, the very first ECI Day took place back in March 2012, just 2 days before the initiative came into existence. What was then a new and ambitious idea has since become a unique cross-border tool for participatory democracy, giving Europeans a voice in setting the political agenda at European level. And what was then an event held to mark the creation of the ECI has become an annual forum and platform for discussions, information exchange, and networking among the ECI community. In the line with this 14-year-long tradition, ECI Day 2026 offers a rich and engaging program. It is taking place within the third EIC Civil Society Week, the theme of which is People, Democracy, Resilience, Our Future. In this context, today's discussions of the European Citizens Initiative has an established participatory instrument, and its role in protecting democracy are particularly timely. It has been organized by the EIC together with our permanent partners from civil society, Democracy International, the European Citizen Action Service, and the ECI campaign. I would like to thank them most warmly for their commitment and for joining force with us to make the 14th edition of European Citizens Initiative Day an inspiring event. Equally, along with the members of the EIC group on the ECI, we are grateful to have such as distinguished speakers with us today, sharing their insights and vision for the future. And I am particularly pleased to see among us the organizers of European Citizens Initiative. From the very beginning, ECI Day has been about meeting, exchanging experience, and building networks. Your presence is thus at the heart of this event. Finally, I would like to thank all of you, the participants, for your engagement and a dedication to the European Citizens Initiative. Thank you. Whether you are here to learn, to contact, or to inspire, I'm confident you will live with the new perspective and meaningful connections that will help define participatory democracy in the European Union. I warmly encourage you to take an active role in the discussions, exchange experience and ideas, visit the networking stands, and share your key takeaways, and also to engage with our sketch note artist here, who is visually capturing to this event, so that the outcome of the day genuinely reflects our collective voice. Let's make this year ECI Day truly memorable by shaping it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mari Carmen. Let me officially open the session, but before I'm going to give you a few practical points. First of all, this event is being web streamed. Interpretation is available in English and French, but only for this high-level session. The interactive workshops after today will be held only in English. And very importantly, we will begin with 2 Slido questions in just a moment. So the QR code is on the screen, or will be in the screen. And online participants can also use the Slido to submit questions through the session. Now, I will try to be fast because my part is not the interesting one. So today is not about celebrating a procedure. It is about testing the strength of European democracy. The European Union has committed under the 2024-2029 priority of protecting our democracy to put citizens at the core of policymaking. The communication on the European Democracy Shield reinforced this commitment. If democracy is a shield, then participation is what reinforces it. Participation protects, but here is the real question. Are we truly ready for citizens to shape the European agenda, not just comment on it? The European Citizens Initiative was created as the world's first transnational participatory democracy tool. It gives 1 million citizens across borders the power to invite the European Commission to act. And in recent months, something remarkable happened. 4 initiatives each surpassed 1 million signatures. 3 of them are participating today, by the way. 4, this is not symbolic engagement, this is mobilization at scale. More than 20 million signatures have been collected since 2012. Some initiatives represented here today are just launching their signature collection around ECI Day. Others have already reached the 1 million threshold. And just days ago, the Commission published its reply to the My Voice, My Choice initiative. 1 million voices, 1 European space. So today's discussion is not, does the ECI work? Clearly, citizens are using it. The real question are, does the political system respond proportionally? Does 1 million signatures translate into legislative momentum? Are initiatives heard and acted upon? If civic engagement is central to safeguarding democracy, as the Democracy Shield suggests, should the ECI become its flagship instrument? And what institutional responsibility follows when citizens mobilize at this scale? In a moment, we will ask you 2 Slido questions, as I told you. But before that, let's hear from those who have turned expectations into action. The organizers of European Citizens Initiative are the ones who test the system in practice, who mobilize across borders, languages, and political cultures. I now invite our organizers to briefly present what is your objective, why did you launch an ECI, and where do things stand today. You will have 2 minutes per person. I will try to be very strict on the timings because otherwise we don't have time for everything, okay? So the first one is going to be Mateo Cadedu from My Voice, My Choice.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Matteo Cadeddu, co-coordinator of the My Voice, My Choice initiative in Italy. Specifically, My Voice, My Choice is a movement that started in 2024 in April with the aim to increase reproductive rights all around the European Union. In specific, we have a proposal to create a fund for supporting safe access to abortion around the European Union. In the European Union, there is a big disparity of access. There are countries like Poland and Malta where abortion is very restricted. There are countries where abortion care is to be paid as a procedure. Countries where, like mine, where a conscious objection create a barrier to access, and many women and people needed to travel. So this is the reason why we created the campaign. It was the fastest CI to get to 1 million signatures. We reached the threshold in 20 countries, the minimum amount of signatures, which is a proof that it's something that is really felt all around the European Union. 300 organizations around the European Union supported the campaign, of which 40 just in Italy. And here we have behind me, there is Alice Spaccini of Associazione Coscioni, that is one of the co-coordinators of the campaign in Italy that supported the signature collection also in person, because we collected the signatures digitally, but also we created hundreds of events with volunteers all around the European Union. It was an overwhelming victory in the European Parliament in December, and last week, as it was mentioned, the European Commission made an historic decision because they said officially that European funds can be used for improving access to safe abortion around the European Union, and not only for the procedures as we originally asked, but also eventually to fund the travels, so the expenses for travels. This is not exactly what we asked, because we originally asked for a dedicated fund, but it creates a powerful path through, because now we can go to countries and work with them to make sure that they adopt the European Social Fund Plus, the dedicated fund that has been selected to support EU citizens for safe abortion. And as Commissioner Labib said last week, this is going to change lives. Thanks.
Thank you, Matteo. And we have another Matteo now, Matteo Gargilo from the Ban on Conversion Practices in the European Union.
Just first one question. Can I speak in French or English is better?
Yeah, you can speak in French because in this one there's interpretation.
Ok, perfect. Super. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je vous remercie sincèrement d'être présents aujourd'hui avec nous pour cette journée des ICE. Je suis très heureux d'être ici. Moi, c'est Matteo Gargilo. Je suis le président de ACT, Against Conversion Therapy, l'association qui a porté l'initiative citoyenne européenne pour l'interdiction des pratiques de conversion dans l'Europe. Notre association, c'est une petite association d'étudiants qui est basée à Lyon, mais on a réussi à faire de grandes choses, comme quoi, quand on a des idées et un peu de motivation, on arrive à faire bouger les choses. Donc pour celles et ceux qui ne sauraient pas ce que sont les thérapies de conversion, dans notre ICE, on définit les thérapies de conversion comme l'ensemble des pratiques qui visent à modifier, réprimer ou supprimer l'orientation sexuelle, l'identité de genre ou l'expression de genre des personnes LGBTI+. On estime que c'est environ 5% des personnes LGBT en Europe qui sont victimes de ces pratiques de conversion. Pratiques de conversion qui sont considérées comme des pratiques de torture par l'ONU depuis 2020 et qui sont interdites dans un nombre grandissant de pays en Europe, seulement 8 quand même. Et c'est pour ça en fait qu'on se mobilise et qu'on utilise cet outil de démocratie participative afin de faire changer les choses et de s'assurer que les droits des personnes LGBT en Europe soient garantis. Donc pour faire un petit retour bref sur la campagne, on a lancé la campagne d'initiative citoyenne européenne le 17 mai 2024 pour la Journée internationale contre les LGBTI+ phobie. Et nous avons fini cette campagne avec plus d'1 245 000 signatures dont 1 million de signatures recueillies en une semaine sur la dernière semaine de campagne. Donc je remercie vraiment toutes les personnes qui se sont mobilisées à la fin, parce que c'était vraiment un moment magique, je pense, pour les personnes LGBT, surtout au moment où les droits LGBTI reculent, les attaques sont de plus en plus nombreuses, notamment de l'extrême droite. Donc on a pu se féliciter de cet engagement citoyen. Et donc nous avons eu la rencontre avec la commissaire à l'égalité, Madame Labib, le 10 décembre dernier. Nous avons eu notre audition au Parlement européen hier, qui s'est remarquablement bien passée, et nous espérons donc une réponse positive de la Commission, comme pour ma voix, mon choix, le 17 mai 2026, 2 ans après le lancement de l'ICE, pour la Journée internationale contre les LGBTI plus phobie. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Matteo. And the next one I have in front of me, Pavel Salesak from Stop Destroying Video Games. The floor is yours.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you all. So I'd like to present our initiative. So imagine if you're buying a book only for publishers to break it into your house years later and burn its pages. This is happening in the game world every day. Stop Destroying Video Games is born from a simple but frustrating reality. We are paying full price for products that have an invisible kill switch. When publishers end support, they don't just stop updating, they remotely disable the game, turning your library into a digital graveyard. This isn't just a bad service, it's a direct hit into the consumer rights and the preservation for our modern culture. Our mission is to remove the kill switch, ensure the games remain playable long after the servers go dark, ownership, not renting. This means that prevent remote shutdowns from turning paid products into paperweights. Mandatory exit plans require publishers to provide an end-of-life plan and also protect our heritage to treat games as a cultural landmark as they are. What is our state of play? It is that initiative has gained a strong international media attention and broad support from gamers, developers and public figures. We have reached the required signature threshold across the EU. We have passed the verification process with 1.3 million signatures, and we also handed over signatures to the European Commission a week ago here in Brussels. And for the final words, we aren't really anti-industry, we are pro-honesty. We want a world where developers keep dreaming, publishers keep profiting, and players actually keep what they buy. Innovation should not come at the cost of the consumer fairness. We are ready to sit at the table with the industry to build a sustainable future, one where games evolve and markets thrive. Because at the end of the day, purchase should be a contract, not a countdown. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one should be Nina. We have her over there. Nina Raluca Bukataru from Save Your Flight. Save Your Flight. Sorry, Save Your Right.
Okay.
Save Your Flight.
So thank you very much for having me today. I represent the Save Your Flight, Save Your Right ECI, and we are quite an unusual initiative in the sense that we are not asking for anything new. We are asking to preserve existing rights that you and I have enjoyed for over 2 decades now. We are talking about the rights that you enjoy when you're sat in an airport not knowing when your flight is going to take off. The flight attendants are avoiding eye contact, and you are just sat there thinking what's coming next. So revisions to this regulation that was first adopted in 2004 would actually mean for consumers longer delays, lower compensation, and because what the council has proposed at the moment is to increase wait time before you are entitled to compensation to at least 4 hours from the current 3-hour threshold and to decrease the amount that you get. Because most intra-EU flights are less than 3 hours, it actually means that more than 90%, according to data, of consumers lose the right to compensation and to have their time accounted for when delays that are not under their control happen. So it's the reason we chose to do this is because we think that it is extremely unfair that decisions that impact us don't involve us. And who are we? We are a group of students that started this while we were doing our master's degree, and we read about plans to water down EU passenger rights, and we thought that the ECI is the perfect tool to get things moving and to involve citizens in the debate. At the risk of using this pun, do help us take off. We are at the stage where we've gathered 5,000 signatures without any external funding across all 27 EU member states. And we're engaging with MEPs, with council representatives, and we are asking all of our signatories to do that as well as a way to spark the debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. Next one is Olga Kiko from Food is a Human Right for All, guaranteeing healthy, just, and sustainable food systems.
Thank you. I represent the Food is a Human Right for All, ECI. The ECI calls on the European Commission to make the right to food a reality. The right to food is recognized internationally in international treaties, and it is ratified by all EU countries. You can see here which are the asks. The ECI centers basically on proposing or amending certain legal acts in a number of areas. So it's an all-encompassing as ECI. It is asking to promote democratic governance, to support social protection, recognize the very important issue that agricultural products are not just ordinary commodities, supporting agroecology, combating land concentration, supporting peasant seed systems, regulating GMOs, promoting sustainable water management, strengthening animal welfare, supporting fruit and vegetable consumption and healthy diets, supporting sustainable food procurement, meaningful food labeling, stopping food waste, and, of course, strengthening of the right to food in third countries. I would like to say that besides these asks, we expect certain political outcomes. And, of course, the most important one is reclaiming food policy, food policy as a public good. Also, we see the ECI as agenda setting at EU level to also lay the groundwork for future legislation. But we also see the ECI as a tool, an instrument to strengthen democratic participation and mobilize citizens across Europe, while also building cross-sector support in our case, and also cross-country support. And finally, promoting institutional dialogue, which is very much needed on this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Davide Biasco from EU Stars on My Passport.
Hello. So our initiative is quite simple. What we propose is simply the choice for the European citizens to have a passport cover that looks the same for everyone, and would feature the EU stars, the blue of European Union, and would be easily recognizable when looked from outside. So who are we? We are a group of alumni of a student organization that was actually born in EU and is thriving thanks to EU funds. So that helped us strengthen our feeling of being in a bigger community. So now the core is like, why do we think that this is important? And we understand that there are many pressing issues. We understand that there are many pressing issues, but we think that it's important to reflect the existing rights that we have on our passport. We believe that it would be a symbol of identity, unity. It would give us this global visibility when we get out of the EU. It would be a sign of civic commitment for the people who choose to use this passport, to select this cover, And it would be like maybe, there may be other personal motivations that people may have. And in general, for the civil society, we think that this could be a way to get closer to the ECI, like motivate more people to sign, and in general to get to the civil society commitments, let's say. We want to start around the 9th of May, as it's a symbolic day for all of us, and we are right now building like the network and the team. So basically, this leads to how like we want to strategically reach this. We are reaching out to pan-European organizations, influencers, media, and eventually political parties across the spectrum. We started not to like in a polarized way. We want this to be something for everyone, really, because it's a choice. So this is something that is the first thing that we want to always stress. Yes, like that's where we need help to just reach as many of these like as many people as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Davide. Next one is Tamam Abu Salama for the demand the full suspension of the EU-Israel association.
For 2 years in a row, people across Europe have watched the genocide unfold in Gaza, streamed live to our screens, committed by Israel, funded by the EU. Millions have marched in cities across the continent, demanding that EU leaders act, not with words, but with justice, to hold Israel accountable for decades of human rights abuses and violations of international law. Yet, the European Commission's response has been limited to statements of concerns and condemnations, and later has even paused talks on sanctions. That's why the European Left Alliance launched the European Citizens Initiative to give people a direct instrument to demand action, together with civil society, grassroots movement, trade unions and citizens. We're mobilizing 1 million voices to force the EU to suspend its association agreement with Israel. Just over a month since the launching, the initiative has already reached the threshold in 8 countries, and over 500,000 people have signed. Each signature is a demand: end EU complicity, fully suspend the Israeli-EU association agreement, uphold international law, and build a Europe rooted in solidarity, human rights, and international law. And we're just getting started. And we're continuing to mobilize until a free Palestine, until justice for Palestine. Thank you.
Wow, you can feel the reaction. I love that. Thank you, Tamam. Next one is Farida Hussein on the no more double standards on human rights.
Yes, it's hard to come next, but I think also very relevant. My name is Farida Hussein. I have the honor to present this ECI here today on behalf of a team, fabulous team, citizens, some civil servants. We have no funding, but full dedication. And I'm quite excited and at the same time very disappointed that we're launching this today. Because actually this should not be the case. We should not need this ECI. Our ECI is about human rights, something that the European Commission and the EU as a whole deeply cares about, at least, so it says. It is enshrined in our treaties in various articles. But it's not just meant for EU citizens. If you look, for instance, in Article 3, it is also supposed to serve the EU in its relationship with the entire world. and uphold its values in strict observance of international law and respect for the UN Charter. But what happens now is that human rights clauses exist, but enforcement is uneven. And very much it depends on economic, political, or security priorities, whether they are upheld or not. To give an example, when Russia commits war crimes, we're very strong in our condemnation. When Israel is on trial for genocide, apparently it's even very hard to find the words. But it's not just about words, it's also about actions, as was just mentioned. When we look at the sanction regime, Russia's top list, but when it comes to Israel, business as usual with someone on trial for genocide. As, of course, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights says, there should not be any double standards. The rule of law is not a pick-and-choose menu depending on who the EU is dining with. Values are not left or right. They're either upheld or they're not. And this is why we're calling for an end to double standards. No country should be above human rights. What we're asking for is a new law to ensure that all countries are treated equally based on the same standards by the EU with a clear oversight mechanism, because we want accountability when the EU does not act according to its own treaties. So we want a binding regulation, standardized framework, and an oversight mechanism so that we could push the EU to actually legally follow its own values and uphold rule of law. There should not be any special treatment for countries to stand above human rights. We want respect for human rights to be the default policy, not one based on political or geopolitical alliances. Will we end human rights violations? No. But this ECI would ensure that the Commission adapts its policies when they occur in their trade preferences, in aid allocation, in political cooperation. We do not want exceptions for allies, because then it becomes a slippery slope. Impunity should not be normalized. So this is why we call for an end to double standards. No countries above human rights, not even Israel. So please, as of today, sign this initiative. It's open now. Thank you.
Thank you, Farida. Next one is Jean-Pierre Saulnier from Ethics, Transparency and Integrity for European Political Parties.
Oui, bonjour, je suis Jean-Pierre Saulnier, donc je représente Ethical Selection. Nous sommes implantés à peu près dans 130 pays avec des petits groupes de 20, 30, 40 ou 50 personnes. Donc nous sommes un mouvement tout neuf, tout nouveau, mais enfin nous avons déjà eu un bel essor là-dessus. Et nous entrons donc dans une particularité de vie sociétale. Nous voyons arriver, nous sommes en plein dans l'ère de la singularité. L'ère de la singularité, ça veut dire quelque part qu'il va y avoir des bouleversements énormes dans les avenirs très proches, sociétaux. Les robots, les nanotechnologies, l'intelligence artificielle arrivent, il va y avoir un chamboulement monstre sur l'échelle sociétale. La question qu'on se pose aujourd'hui, est-ce que nos politiciens sur la planète entière sont à même de bien cerner tout cela? Et puis sont-ils à même aussi de gérer cette révolution qui va arriver? Parce qu'elle est là, elle est à nos portes dans les 5 ans, les 10 ans à venir. Nous allons nous retrouver avec des chamboulements extraordinaires. Ça nous dépasse encore aujourd'hui, mais les gens qui mettent le doigt déjà dessus sont alertés à ce niveau-là. Alors nous nous posons une question importante, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour que la démocratie soit toujours vivante et puis soit surtout donc bien pilotée? La question que je vais vous poser risque de vous choquer peut-être, mais ça ne fait rien, je vais la poser quand même parce qu'elle sera posée quand même dans les temps à venir. Un médecin, un pilote, un chef d'entreprise, avant de rentrer dans une entreprise, passe un examen d'aptitude à faire son job, passe un examen d'aptitude pour être véritablement celui qui va répondre aux questions, aux besoins et tout cela de son entreprise. Est-ce que nous, les gens qui sont autour de nous, qui nous gouvernent, qui nous guident, ont tous véritablement cette aptitude? Est-ce que comme on le voit dans bien des pays, et même le nôtre ici, enfin, en France par exemple, on a quelques difficultés avec des prises de conscience qu'on n'est pas bien compris. On n'est pas bien compris. Alors, est-ce que nos gouvernants savent entendre, comprendre et puis aider? On se pose la question. Donc, on se demande si la démocratie ne devrait pas se moderniser. À une certaine époque, elle était donc avec l'histoire du vote, il fallait payer pour voter. Ensuite, les femmes n'avaient pas le droit de vote. La démocratie a changé. Il y a eu des tas d'organismes qui sont venus pour veiller à ce qu'il se passe quelque chose de sain, de propre. La démocratie progresse au fur et à mesure du temps. Aujourd'hui, ne sommes-nous pas dans un temps où il faudrait peut-être demander à cette démocratie de bien faire attention à ce que ces dirigeants, ces guides soient véritablement des gens qui soient passés devant une commission qui les accueille et qui leur dit « oui, vous êtes à tel niveau, vous pouvez entrer en position de guide ou de gouvernant ». C'est ce que nous demandons. Et nous faisons passer ce courant à travers la planète pour dire faisons en sorte que nos guides, nos gouvernants soient vraiment des gens en qui on peut avoir confiance, avec tout un ensemble de critères de compétences, mais aussi de personnalité, et qu'ils aillent tous vers quelque chose qui est important, qui manque aujourd'hui, c'est l'humanitarisme. L'humanitarisme, c'est aimer l'humanité. C'est quelque chose qui est... C'est pas aimer un petit groupe, c'est aimer l'humanité. Et ça doit rentrer aussi dans ces critères de sélection. Voilà, nous sommes en train d'essayer de faire comprendre, de faire passer cette idée à travers la planète. C'est une réflexion, ce n'est pas une volonté de casser la démocratie, au contraire, c'est de l'enrichir, de faire en sorte qu'elle soit enrichie. Et que chacun puisse se présenter, oui, à l'âge de 19 ans, à l'âge électoral, et puis avoir une capacité déjà définie qui dit, eh ben, là, vous pouvez faire ceci, vous pouvez faire cela. C'est quelque chose qui est, on va dire, sélectif, j'aime pas le mot sélectif, mais plutôt évolutif. Voilà l'objectif de notre démarche, pour qu'enfin on rentre dans une démocratie qui pense à l'être humain, qui sait le mettre au centre des préoccupations des systèmes.
Merci. Last but not least, we have Salvatore Ricci from Stop Funding Russia's War, Phase Out Harmful and Useless Russian Imports into the EU.
Hello, everyone. So we have been asked to talk about three things, right? And the first one is the objective of our initiative. And I thought when looking at the title that was clear, because Stop Funding Russia's War, it's clear. But actually, maybe it's not that clear. But let me take a step back. So how did we come to this initiative? Well, recently it was mine, and then it enlarged to other people, but recently I changed job and I started working on trade policies for the steel sector. And when I was looking at the data, I saw this. So steel is, it's a very boring topic, by the way, but steel is, there is overcapacity. So there is a lot of steel in world, and actually we are trying to stop the flow of steel. And then I saw that when you look at trade, we still import some substantial quantities of steel from Russia, and those steel are actually more or less imported just by one company that is Russian, that is operating in Europe. So they are importing these products from Russia. And this is generating, I think, around 3 billion euros. And as I said before, there is overcapacity, so we could get the steel from everywhere in the world, but we are still getting it from there. Then I was discussing with people, and we started looking into the data. I mean, we have seen before Russia, there are a lot of sanctions in place. But then we saw that, okay, there are a lot of sanctions, but there are still products that we import, and this generates around 28 billion euros per year. In 2025, it was 28 billion. And I mean, so then the question is, okay, we hear a lot, sanctions, but do the people know that these money are still going to Russia while they have caused this unprovoked war in Ukraine? I mean, this for us, this was very upsetting. So that's the objective of our initiative, is to stop this flood, because we have shown with data that we have alternatives. We can get these products anywhere. You can talk about steel, we can get it very easily, but also other products. And We think that this is not right, especially after what Russia did. 28 billion, it's 1/3 of what we just gave to Ukraine, so it's very substantial. And we have made this bet that people care, that citizens care, that citizens do not want this to happen, and that's why we launched the initiative. Where we are today, well, we just launched it. It was a month ago, so we are just, not a month ago, 2 weeks ago. And we have collected 1,000 signatures. We are looking for sponsors at the moment. We have some projects under the pipeline, but we are very confident that people care, and so that's why we brought this. Thank you.
Thank you, Salvatore, and thank you to all the organizers. I think we heard a lot of interesting things today. I think about something that Nina said, that decisions were made without us, and also Tamam was saying that precisely the ESI is like a tool to directly demand actions from institutions. So thank you all for coming here today. What we have just heard is mobilization at scale, as I said before, across policy fields across Europe. The question now is going to move to our institutional leaders, but before that, as I told you before, we are going to answer to some Slido questions. There are just 2, but this is your moment to take the phone to answer to these questions, and only for this, or to post about how magnificent is the ESI Day, and how much you are enjoying this. So this is to warm up a little bit, because these answers will save the debate that is going to come later. So the first one is, has the European Citizens Initiative become a real agenda-setting tool in the European policymaking? I see 15 participants typing. Should be 50, not 15. Yes, especially, completely. Yes, but still not enough. Unsure. Sometimes citizen washing. I think there's still potential. Citizens start to look into it, but it's mostly ignored by European leaders. Improved. Now there are a lot. I don't know how many I read already. Needs more accountability, a bit empty, not for most issues. Let's move to the next one. If civic engagement is central to protecting democracy, what should be the EU's priority for the ESI in the next mandate? This is a little bit longer. Yes, Free Palestine. Human rights. Promotion of ESI. More promotion of citizens. Allocate funds. I lost that one. Make it easier for civil society. Oh, it moves so fast. Make it happen. Awareness raising. Coherence. Make it blinding. Okay, I see a lot of opinions in here. Let's move on. Thank you very much. So, if civic engagement is central to democratic resilience, as the Democracy Shield suggests, what strategic role should the European Citizens Initiative play today? That's what we were talking about just before. And when 4 initiatives surpass 1 million signatures in a few months, what responsibility follows? A very warm welcome to our distinguished speakers. They are not here just to stay here with me. They are also here to speak. So I want to welcome Seamus Boland, the President of the European Economic and Social Committee, Yunus Omarjee, the Vice President of the European Parliament, Teresa Angino, the European Ombudswoman, Gillian Kuglan, the Vice President of the European Committee of the Regions, and Asia Kavrakova, the Executive Director of European Citizens Action Service. I'm going to throw to you guys 2 more general questions to warm up a little bit the debate and to see what's your opinion on that. So, first of all, The European Democracy Seal places civic engagement at the heart of democratic resilience. In this context, what strategic role should the European Citizens Initiative play in protecting and strengthening European democracy today? And second, with 4 initiatives surpassing 1 million signatures in recent months, citizens are clearly mobilizing. What concrete responsibility does this create for EU institutions in the current mandate? Simons, let's start by you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear moderator, and thank you, first of all, for being here today. If I may, as president of the committee, just indulge a little bit before I get to the question. I am absolutely overpowered by the large numbers of people here today, and I also know that there is a large number online. Again, there is a saying we often use in the world of citizens, if it's about us, then don't leave us out, or don't do it without us. So without us, then it can't be about us. And I think I have to compliment all of you this morning for your outline of your citizens' initiatives. I have to compliment you because you are not just talking about it, you're walking the talk, you're mobilizing. And that's what citizens do, and that's what we should be always enabled to do. It's disappointing that a Eurobarometer survey show 78% don't get involved. And I think what you are proving, and what this Euro Citizens Initiative is proving, is yes, citizens can and should get involved, and by doing so, it really and truly allows us and policymakers to think about what decisions we're making. I could go on. One more point before I go to your question. I'm really sorry, and you'll be right to snap me out because time is important.
I forgive you.
Nice to have the forgiveness first. So I won't say much about it. I will say later on, maybe at the closing. But look, let's take a moment to reflect about what is happening around us and what is happening outside us, and what, frankly, is involving all of us. And let's just think about that, and let's think about a world that, at the moment, I hope I'm wrong, is falling apart. A world that looks like it's going to involve us one way or the other in terms of the destabilization of peace and the economic consequences, and the consequences for rights and the consequences for freedom. I've no idea, except I know this. I do know this. You, all of you, as civil society organisers, members, will be involved. That I do know. And already I am getting calls from civil society organisations who are involved on a humanitarian level, and on an assistance level, and on an observation level. So I'm not going to let this pass without mentioning this, but I will talk about it more later on. To the question, the Democracy Shield and civil engagement at the heart of democratic resilience. It's no great surprise when I got elected to being president of the ESC. Lots of people were wondering, well, what is your mandate going to be? What are you going to do? What imaginary new magic solution are you going to bring? I am just not quite nearly 70, not quite yet. I'm still holding on to being young, but since I was 14, I had 2 issues in my mind: the eradication of poverty and civil society at the heart of policy making. So I said to them, I'm sorry, but I'm too old to change. Eradication of poverty is really important, but civil society at the heart of policy making, civil society engagement, which is your question, is what it's about. Because civil society engagement means that we hear the voices that are not often captured, even in democratic societies. The minority groups, the groups that suffer all sorts of persecution. I mean, I don't want to be picking out subjects. All of the subjects here in front of me are so important, but the conversion practices. And I mean, this is ridiculous to say, and I can expect the arrows coming from you when I say it, but it is ridiculous, so I'm saying that first. Imagine the conversion practice was turned around, and those of us who are in so-called majority gender were asked to convert the other way. Imagine what we would think. And why is it different? Why is conversion practice different to people who are in minorities, or so-called minorities? And that's just one example of the importance of rights and the importance of civic engagement. Because civic engagement is not just hearing about what the majority think, it's also hearing about what the minorities think. And there is a failure of dialogue, and there is a failure across the whole political spectrum when we ignore the small people, the minorities, the awkward voices, even the voices we disagree with. Because when you decide you don't like the person you disagree with, you are very likely to become the very despot that you so hate and so despise. And that is an extraordinary place to be for anybody with power. And you know, in my life I've seen, thankfully very few, but I have seen examples of people I believed and trusted that when into power they arrive, suddenly they do exactly what everybody else in their positions did as well. And that's back to the challenge that you and I continually wrestle with, and I do. Am I listening and am I hearing, even those I disagree with? So the Democracy Shield, as part of the mandate that I bring in my presidential period, we are engaging strongly with two commissioners, Zuccuno and McGrath. McGrath has the task of talking about building a civil society, a formal civil society strategy. And also we then have the Democracy Shield. So this House hopes to be right smack in the middle of that debate, and we are working really hard, and I know Commissioner McGrath will be here later this week, and other commissioners as well. So we really want to see this not just staying within the Brussels bubble, but outreaching as much as possible. And in this House, we do like to do outreach. We don't always have the resources or the funding. I wish we did. But we do want to see both the Democratic Shield and the civil society strategy reach out to civil society organisations and citizens across Europe. As I said, we have to be very clear in terms of how we bring your voice, not just in the ECIs, but in every manner or means. I keep saying this, civil society organisations, despite the onslaught and the attacks made on them right now, are the only hope to hear those awkward voices, to hear those voices looking for justice, to hear those voices looking for equality, and to hear those voices of the voiceless, especially those immersed in poverty. Poverty is the greatest ill, because poverty means we go to the bottom of the famous Laszlo theory, which I'm sure you studied, where you only worry about today, the next hour. And right now there is a mother, there is a parent, there is a person worrying about the next few hours in terms of survival, in terms of their next stage. That's what poverty reduces us all to, and it's why poverty and social justice go together, and it's why civil society in engagement purposes is so important, because the voices we just heard this morning are heard and, in this case, actioned on. Finally, just to say, in answer to that first part of your question, I don't know if I have to answer the second part yet, or do you want me to do that? It's up to you.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah, okay. I have prepared, but I'm conscious of time. So just to say this, the European Citizens Initiative, a gentleman was thanking us for taking this on board. And I think you were worried that this president mightn't, be as keen. I can tell you I am. I want to see this survive, and I want to see this grow. And, this will be challenged greatly in the times we're now in. There are certain forces, especially in the Parliament, which I am worried about. And again, citizens have to make their voices known in terms of the future. And I'm trying to think of the second question right now. Yes, it's about the 4 initiatives with the 1 million signatures. We've already debated the pro-choice in our plenary just very recently, and it got a resounding vote of support. You will be glad to know. So this House is really behind you on that one. We are dealing with the conversion practices later. I think it's in the next 1 or 2 plenaries, and I expect that to survive well. And I expect all of your proposals. You heard a round of applause for Sanam. And so you can take, there will be a lot of support for all of the, and I don't in any way diminish any of the proposals brought here this morning. So in terms of the concrete responsibility does that create EU institutions? Okay, I can either fill the glass half full or have it half empty, in answering that question. At the end of the day, we do know social economic inequalities grow. We do know that when we often feel we have achieved certain rights, and I know there has been in Europe, and I have to say this, there's lots of reasons why we can be unhappy at times with the European Union, etc. But I will defend the European Union above any other system in the world, because through the European Union, we have managed to elevate social, legal and human rights. Is it perfect? Of course not. But look around you and tell me who is doing it better. Look around you, and I see in my own country, we have so many rights brought into Irish law because of the European connection. So I just want to say that. So I would argue in EU institutions, when you pass the 1 million signatures, really should have a better, should take them more seriously. And we would ask here in this House for a mechanism to instantly oblige the European institutions to take action. Yes, they will still have to bring it through their various democratic processes, but it is not enough to note the 1 million signatures. We need a bit more action on that. Sorry for going on a bit long, my moderator, but that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. It was worth it, and I already told you that I forgive you, so I committed to that. Okay, so John Usomarji, Vice President of Parliament, the same 2 questions for you.
Merci beaucoup. Je dois vous dire que Tout d'abord, je suis très heureux d'être ici ce matin. Je remercie le président. C'est toujours un immense plaisir que de vous écouter. Et lorsque j'ai à côté de moi un humaniste, je suis en bonne compagnie. Et en vous écoutant tous ce matin, je me suis mis quand même un peu à rêver que la tonalité des débats ici soit celle au Parlement européen, parce que vous savez que nous sommes dans un temps politique qui est assez angoissant et assez dangereux. En vous écoutant, je me suis dit aussi que vous avez un niveau de conscience très élevé du devoir d'engagement, mais aussi un niveau de conscience très élevé de la gravité du moment que nous vivons aujourd'hui en Europe, tel que l'a décrit le président, le sentiment que les valeurs auxquelles nous sommes attachés et qui se retrouvent à travers les ICE que vous défendez, que ces valeurs sont combattues, qu'elles peuvent régresser, et puis aussi ce sentiment que la paix aujourd'hui recule, cette exigence de paix recule, et que parfois même le mot paix peut devenir un gros mot. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle tous les efforts dans les assemblées représentatives, comme dans la société, pour protéger ces valeurs, sont absolument fondamentales aujourd'hui. Je vais donner mon âge également. J'ai 57 ans et jamais j'aurais pu imaginer, et c'est mon 4e mandat, et il y a une accélération des processus qui est tout à fait incroyable, et jamais j'aurais pu imaginer que la question des libertés, que la question de l'état de droit, que la question de la guerre généralisée puisse se poser avec une telle acuité. Donc c'est pourquoi l'engagement des citoyens est absolument fondamental pour ramener aussi les responsables politiques devant leurs devoirs. Et j'espère que les ICE vont contribuer encore plus qu'aujourd'hui à l'agenda politique européen. Mais pour sortir des caricatures, il est vrai que tous les sujets que vous avez évoqués ici font l'objet de discussions au Parlement européen. Et vous avez, par exemple, rappelé la victoire formidable pour My Voice, My Choice. Mais plus que de discussions, il faut qu'aujourd'hui, d'une certaine manière, lorsque les ICE atteignent ce niveau de signature, qu'elles puissent obliger les institutions européennes. Et c'est le reproche en tant que parlementaire que je peux faire à la Commission européenne qui, par le passé, comme aujourd'hui, ne se sent pas obligée par la mobilisation des citoyens. Le président a dit quelque chose d'extrêmement important concernant les minorités. La démocratie, elle se distingue des autres régimes précisément parce que les points de vue minoritaires sont respectés. Plus encore que les points de vue minoritaires, les minorités en tant que telles sont respectées et doivent pouvoir pleinement s'exprimer. Mais je crois surtout que ce sont, dans les temps de l'histoire les plus difficiles, que ce sont les minorités en réalité qui sont les vigies, les sentinelles de ce qui permet de conforter les modèles démocratiques. Toute l'histoire le montre. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle, oui, les points de vue parfois minoritaires qui sont exprimés à travers les ICE, aussi importantes qu'elles puissent être, doivent être pleinement assumées par les institutions. Donc vraiment, vous dire aussi que les mobilisations citoyennes nous donnent de la force et nous donnent du courage dans l'action politique qui est la nôtre. Je suis vice-président du Parlement européen, mais je suis aussi un député européen du groupe de la gauche, et nous avons fortement soutenu l'initiative citoyenne My Voice.
I'm
My
sorry,
Choice.
Jonas, but I will have to tell you to go a little bit faster. Sorry, because we are already really
Sur les
late on time.
conversions de thérapie, sur la situation à Gaza et l'accord d'association. Et il est évident que lorsque nous avons une telle mobilisation citoyenne, nous sommes plus forts dans le Parlement européen pour avancer sur nos objectifs. Sur la question que vous avez posée, je pense qu'il ne faut pas opposer en réalité démocratie parlementaire et implication des citoyens. Mais nous devons réfléchir tout de même, parce que nous sommes là pour réfléchir ensemble, réfléchir tout de même sur cette dissociation qui existe entre les politiques européennes qui sont parfois mises sur la table et les attentes des citoyens européens. Et cette dissociation entre la manière dont les institutions pensent le futur de l'Europe et la manière dont les citoyens s'emparent des sujets est une inquiétude très forte sur la pérennité même de notre modèle européen. Donc voilà pour respecter le temps de parole.
No problem. We're no problem. It's like we're a lot, so.
Donc voilà.
Merci, Jonas. I'm sorry, but we have like a lot of things to say, and we're already running out of time. So, Teresa, you are the next one.
Maybe I should ask for your forgiveness just in the beginning.
I forgive all of you.
Thank you.
The question is, do I forgive you? Do organizers forgive you for this time schedule thing?
I hope so. So first of all, just allow me to thank, of course, the European Social Committee for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here with you. This is my second year in a row, which already attests the importance that I give to the ECI Day. And to the principles and values that are behind the ECI. Also allow me to thank all the organizers of the ECIs, I mean that the ones that have already reached the threshold, and of course the ones that are still in the path. So my congratulations to the ones that have already done it. And of course my word of profound respect for the ones that are still in the path, because I acknowledge your efforts, your perseverance, and I believe that actually meaningful change is built step by step. So all efforts are very worth it. Now just also a small preamble. I'm a jurist, so bear with me. Just to say that I heard here the mentioning about the, let's say, the erosion of the international rules-based order. And I mean, we all acknowledge that. And we also need to acknowledge that in the European Union, there is today this huge tension between resilience and our own constitutional identity based on principles, important principles and values. Allow me to say that, well, I'm an ombudsman, in my case an ombudswoman, so I need to be optimistic. And I have to say that I still believe in the huge strength of our principles and our values, and that resilience and our constitutional identity and legality do not oppose. On the contrary, they are interdependent. That's what makes our institutions solid. That's what makes our democracy also very solid. And, well, my mission, I truly believe, is exactly to stress this message that I'm here as a reference institution to remind in these very anxious times, anxiety for the institutions because they are also struggling with survival and resilience, and anxiety for the citizens that believe in that they are facing opacity or lack of transparency or lack of accountability. So it is my mission to, in these anxious times, also show to you that I exist, that I'm here, and that you can always address your voices to me, because by doing that, by stressing the importance of principles and values, that is not just the right thing to do, it is also the smart thing to do, and that is very important. The question was, how do I see the ECI vis-à-vis to strengthening of societal resistance? So the ECI must be recognized as a flagship instrument for participatory democracy and a key instrument for building and strengthening the resilience of society in the European space. First of all, because, well, it gives a very practical meaning to the fact that representative and participatory democracy go hand in hand, and that is established in the treaties. Because when you give 1 million or more than 1 million citizens the possibility to propose legislation to the Commission, you are actually bringing the EU lawmaking to its roots. You are showing that democracy does not stop on the day of the elections or at the door of the institutions, that is actually linked to collective action. Secondly, because it helps building, very important, I heard it here, the identity. It helps building a public space, a European public space, because by its nature, it requires transnational mobilization around shared values and shared concerns. So this meaning a collaborative space, fostering dialogue, and of course affirming itself as a very important instrument for building this important resilience in society in these times of polarization. And third, which is also very important, and I kind of heard it here, it's also a kind of a sentinel. I believe the ECI is a kind of an early warning system, a democratic radar, if we can call it, because we can see very early what are your concerns. That's why I was, going around and trying to understand what is mobilizing you, what are the topics that actually are mobilizing you. And when institutions respond to you constructively, the fact is that the risks of citizens in general disengaging and being vulnerable to anti-democratic narratives actually diminishes. And that is, very important. And it is exactly because of this that participation alone is not enough. We have to go beyond that. So, of course, the procedure needs to be fair, accountable, transparent, but also successful initiatives need clear and transparent follow-up. You have to show to these 1 million or more citizens that actually their efforts led to meaningful, let's say, institutional reflection, to public political debates among all stakeholders, and also, very important, to visible accountability. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, it risks, again, the expectations turning into disappointment. And just a very small word on the second question, that is, how do I interpret this mandate with the 4 successful initiatives going to? Well, I believe that 4 successful initiatives and more to take off, hopefully, Nina, actually mean, and you have to say, it's an expression of trust. Well done to the European Union, because this instrument, it shows trust in the instrument, it shows trust in the European project. And this demands from institutions, I believe, 3 very important things. First, seriousness, in the sense that, well, you have to show to these citizens that, well, to you, that they are entitled to meaningful engagement, not just procedural formality accomplishments. That's very important. Then clarity, what the ECI can do and cannot do. Because, as you know, the European Commission has to assess, but is not obliged to legislate. So this clarity is very important to maintain your trust. And the third thing that I believe is very important is the consistency and the accountability that it demands from the institutions. So when institutions commit to an action, the minimum that you can ask is to follow through. And if they do not, the minimum that you can ask is clear and reasoned explanations and timely explanations. I strongly believe, not only for this initiative, but I think in general, I strongly
I'm sorry,
believe...
Teresa, but I will have to cut you.
I'm finishing with one small sentence.
Okay.
I strongly believe that the mistrust, or for you to regain trust, it does not depend from outcomes matching expectations. It does depend from you all seeing that your procedures were taken care, seriously, that there was honest communication in the end, and of course also very clear accountability from the institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry for cutting you. These are the rules. It's not me. Gillian. Yeah. Gillian, you are the next one. You are by my side. Don't feel the pressure.
I promise I won't.
Don't feel it.
I won't indeed. Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. I am very proud to represent President of the European Committee of the Regions, Kata Tuto, who sends her apologies for not being able to be here. I'm inspired this morning. It's wonderful to hear citizens engaging and mobilising and bringing their voices here to Brussels. And I suppose as a local representative, as a county councillor in Ireland, I'm doing this, I'm dealing with local issues all of the time. But what I am feeling, I suppose, in response to something that was said earlier, people are becoming very individualistic and are less and less inclined to think globally. And I fear that. I suppose Jean-Jacques Rousseau came into my mind as I listened to my neighbour here eloquently espouse about the European project. Citizenship is a contract. It's a social contract. And that's a contract is a two-way deal. And the politicians and the institutions, both at European, at local, at national level, are doing their part. But citizens must sit up and take their place as well. And the less that is being done, the more the politicians, and even more so the civil servants and those really with the power behind the throne, they are pushing the agenda. And they can be influenced, So we need to take care of our democracy in that sense. And it is about this. It is about people stepping outside their front doors, stepping outside their Netflix streaming, and actually saying, OK, this matters to me. And I was delighted to hear about the video games, because I'm a teacher as well. I'm a secondary school teacher. And, I was at school yesterday. And this will matter to when I go home to them on Friday and say, this is what we were talking about in Brussels today, or this is something that I can bring. It needs to engage. The delays, how many of us are flying? The delays at airports, the practicalities, the way in which, politics is beginning to develop is a binary common sense approach, which makes things black and white. Nothing about politics is black and white ever. It is all about the spectrum. It is all about the tapestry of nuance, about the differences, the richness that each person brings to the world. That's what politics is about. It's about trying to put some little bit of organisation on all of that richness. But if we dispel that richness, then we are really looking at a very, very bleak future. So the more, the merrier. The more voices, the more colours in the tapestry, the better. I really, again, salute you, Matteo, about the including the LGBT and ensuring that they are not being discriminated and persecuted. It's persecution in the 21st century is what we're looking at there. So I really salute all of those. I have a big long speech. I think it is more of a morning that we need to really respond to what is in front of us rather than necessarily bringing the institutional language. Anybody can read those texts, anybody can read the lovely, and thanks to those who have supported me in giving me these notes this morning. But that is what I feel this morning. Seamus, you as President, my fellow countrymen, it is about making lives better, and democracy should be about that. The Democracy Shield, and our fellow countrymen, not to be too parochial about it today, Commissioner McGrath, I think it really comes down to trust and fairness. When I said earlier about people becoming more and more individualistic, if they're more and more individualistic and they're just watching their phones, and the echo chamber of their phone, the algorithm, continues to tell them what they want to hear, if that's anti-human rights or it's anti-LGBT, or if it's common sense, it's your own fault if your flight was delayed, you shouldn't be compensated. Sure, all those politicians are getting much too much on expenses anyway, That sort of basic sort of narrative needs to be dispelled. And we know that there are rogue actors, foreign actors, who are trying to destroy the European Union and destroy the diversity and this opportunity for engagement that it provides, along with everything else that it has provided. And indeed, you said, steel may be boring. The European Union was originally the European coal and steel community. It was created to raise all boats, to ensure that war would not break out again. And yet, unfortunately, it has. So now we must show our grit and our resilience, but not at the expense of human rights. Sometimes we see, war, okay, we have to drop the human rights now. That's only a nice to have. We must focus on the finance for the tanks and the guns. No. Human rights are not a nice to have. They are an essential, and they are across the board. And each one of your initiatives, basically at its core, is human rights. Human rights and the right to be heard, the right to be expressed, and the right to influence the world around you. Nobody can take that from us. This Citizens' Initiative helps us to strengthen that, and it is my responsibility as a European, as a member of the European Committee of the Regions, but mostly as a local representative, to support you in that. And across the board here, you've heard support from the institutions. So I salute you. This morning really is about you. It's not about us. We are here doing our jobs, representing you as best we can. But it's always great to have the agenda broken open and to have the diversity, the real diversity, the nuance, the beauty of people's imaginations, of people's creativity, of people's intelligence coming together, forging a new path, forging a new future. Because without that, really, as I say, things are not so hopeful. So thank you all for your participation this morning, and good luck to each one of you in your future endeavours. Gormagov.
You could feel the energy that I was going to. So, okay. Last but not least, Asia Kavrakova, Executive Director of European Citizens Action Service. The floor is yours for a few minutes.
Thank you very much. Can I ask a question? Shall we have another round of questions just to know whether I should squeeze what I want to say in this one? Or
that is actually a good question.
Yes.
I was wondering, what should I do? Should I ask just one, just two, just three? But I don't want to have that responsibility, because that's very hard. So at the same time,
I will cover all my grounds.
No, don't
worry.
Be
on the safe side.
Don't worry, because at the same time, I thought to myself, I could maybe tell them to answer in one sentence. That's impossible.
Good try. Nice try.
So I thought I will give the floor to them, so they have the time to ask you questions, because that's the interesting part. So the floor is yours for your minutes, and you can answer whatever you prefer.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for having me on the panel, for ICAS, as well as the other partners of the ECI Day, ECI Campaign and Democracy International. It's always a pleasure to contribute to the event. Yes, it's clear we live in dark times. The international order, at least the way that we used to know it, is non-existent anymore, or at least not respected. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem to be changing soon. So this would be the new reality, I'm afraid, for some time now. That means that we also cannot continue with business as usual. What does that mean? If the European Union wants to preserve its way of life based on rule of law, human rights, based on values, we would need to invest heavily in societal resilience, in the resilience of our citizens. Societal resilience, we at ICAS understand as digital resilience, media resilience, and citizens' resilience. And the citizens' resilience is the ability and capacity of citizens to understand policies and also to be actively engaged and to contribute to decisions. Why is this more important than ever at this very moment? Because I'm afraid that the European Union would need to take soon some unpopular decisions, decisions that may come at a cost for all of us if we want to preserve what we know and what is important for us. And the only way in which those decisions can fly is if they're legitimate, which means supported by citizens and shared by them, because it will be a common responsibility. In the framework of this scene, in the framework of the participatory ecosystem, or as we call it here in the Brussels bubble, the participatory democracy toolbox, the European Citizens Initiative occupies a very special place. Why? Because it's a unique instrument and because it acts as a thermometer. It takes the temperature of the society, it measures the pulse, it indicates what is important for citizens. But, of course, as a doctor cannot leave the patient just at the level of taking their temperature, also the European institutions cannot leave the ECI at the stage of noting those concerns and demands. And yes, there is an activism, there is an increase of citizen activism. We can see this also through the inquiries that we received through the European Citizens Initiative Forum. Maybe you know that ICAS is managing it on behalf of the European Commission. Since the launch of the forum, we have responded to 250 different inquiries of current and also potential organizers. 150 of them are legal inquiries. So citizens want to know what legal basis they can use in order to have their initiatives registered and to be able to pursue their goals. Out of those 150, more than 20 have been asked in the last 3 months. This is unprecedented high number and activism, and all of them, I can tell you, as subjects, are related to the troubles of the day. So citizens are interested and want to contribute, want to be engaged, and want to move forward. Again, the regulation, unfortunately, has some limitations. European Citizens Initiative can ask the Commission for a legal act. This is quite narrow, in our view, especially under the current circumstances. We need to expand the scope of task, in my view, because a legal act means that the Commission initiates legislation which then follows the ordinary or the special procedure. It does not include non-legislative measures, which the Commission issues and are also important. It does not include, in my view, the delegated acts, which the Commission can adopt autonomously and change legislation or amend it, and definitely does not include acts initiated by other institutions. So, in my view, the upcoming review of the regulation is the moment to actually think a bit out of the box and consider how we can mainstream the European Citizens Initiative in the policy-making process in order to increase its impact. We need also to engage other institutions with more clear responsibilities. I think the Parliament is doing quite a lot. The European Economic and Social Committee needs to say, but I believe there is more to be done, also by Member States. For example, now with the actual follow-up of the My Voice, My Choice initiative will depend on the Member States, wouldn't it? So while, of course, we wouldn't need to wait for the Member States to act themselves on an initiative, there are quite a number of formats led by the Commission and facilitated by the Commission that are already in place that can be used for this purpose. For example, the high-level working groups which exist in almost all policy domains could be such an instrument. So that's just a suggestion. Of course, there are many other possibilities, but I believe that we need to open the box. This is the only way we can ensure an impact, and we need impact in those times if we want to be able to preserve our values, but also our sanity, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asia. I ask you all for your forgiveness for this, But now I want to give you the floor at least for 10 minutes if you still want to have a coffee break before the first interactive workshop. If you want to ask our speakers any question, just raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much for these excellent, inspiring comments and introductions. I'm Carsten Berg from the ECI campaign. As Sia just said, we're one of the co-organizers of this ECI Day for 15 years now, and it's really, in particular in this world moment, really helpful. And as Sia said, we will have the revision, or the review of the ECI rules very soon, which we would love to see translated into a revision, as it was the case 10 years ago with Commissioner Timmermans, who was then responsible. The question to us, and that's something we will probably also explore in the workshops, what exactly should be improved in order to ensure a stronger ECI? And Seamus, if I may ask you, I mean, what we recently observed, and I don't want to spoil the atmosphere, we have seen only 7 registered ECIs last year. We have had 14 successful ECIs, but none of them have been implemented in full so far. So there's a management mismatch, if you like. How do you think could we actually improve the follow-up and the implementation and real impact of ECIs in procedural terms? Of course, this is very specific, but we will have Mr. Šefčovič with us this afternoon, and the revision is not this year, but next year, so we have sufficient time to prepare this. But maybe to get this discussion started, do you have already initial ideas expanding the scope, as Sia said, perhaps also allowing constitutional changes? Because that's my last point. What I really liked, what has been said, is that if it is about us, don't leave us outside. Currently, we are left outside regarding all the fundamental constitutional questions while the House is being shaken, right? So it is a constitutional moment, if you like. Sorry for being so long. First question.
Don't worry. Okay, so I don't know who wants to answer in one sentence, maybe 2, 1.5. Seamus?
Very quickly, if I say I don't have an answer, it's probably not acceptable. But on the other hand, I do fully support the thrust of your question. So I think this House has to take it more seriously as well. But equally, we have to try and bring back the fears of the institutions that this somehow is democracy running their counterintuitive. I think the reality is when you get so many signatures, I said it earlier on, there has to be some action. So I think we need to get into that discussion, not quite right now, thank you, but we do need that discussion.
I'm sorry, I feel half like the police, half like a journalist, but half the police. Another short question. I think people are waiting for the coffee at this moment. We've heard strong perspectives from organizers and institutions. This is your opportunity to bring additional angles into the discussion. We now have time for the coffee break so you can interact between each other and throw these ideas. Thank you to all the speakers and to everyone here and online for a thoughtful and sustainable discussion. I look forward to continuing this conversation in the workshops.
Pleasure.